threat of disaster is never pleasant.
Welcome to the Casual Preppers podcast.
These safety measures are essential.
The only place for prepping, survival, and entertainment.
This will be your source of survival instructions and information. Every member of the family must be coached in the business of survival.
Here are your hosts, Cam and Kobe.
I tell you what, man, I am revved up today. Are you revved up?
Holy moly. Yeah. We've started early.
Yeah. What I want to do is go get my testosterone checked right now.
This is the time.
That shit is high.
This is the time.
Yeah. If you haven't noticed, we have a guest with us today. Cam, would you like to introduce the fella sitting next to you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So, next to me, at my left, if you're not looking at the video, we truly do have Donny Dust next to us.
The man himself.
Oh,
yeah.
Welcome, man.
Thank you.
See, we don't do this a lot. We don't bring people in the studio very often.
We really don't.
No,
we're too terrible at communicating with them. And, yeah. So, but no, I'm excited because genuinely the coolest dude. He knows his stuff.
Yeah.
He taught us some stuff. But if you don't know who Donny Dust is, he's a Marine Corps veteran, survival expert. I'm not the knowledge level is just phenomenal.
It's rather high.
We were talking about it on the way down from the mountain. We were just we are dumb. We were really dumb. But yeah, he also, you have a big following on TikTok, YouTube with all of your primitive skills. You also have appeared on reality TV.
Yeah, man.
Alone.
That's where I first saw you, was Alone.
Yeah. Alone. He's been on Alone, Mud, Sweat and Beards, and he owns paleo reality TV shows. Oh, sorry, I screwed that up. See, I dicked it up too. Paleo Track Survival, a survival and wilderness self-reliance school in Colorado, which we need to take part of.
Oh my gosh, so badly.
Yeah,
so bad.
But also, you're an author, right?
Yes.
That's pretty new.
That's my latest book, Wild Wisdom.
We're going to talk about it. Some awesome stuff.
I love the illustrations in this book, dude. It's so sexy.
It's a pretty book.
It really is.
It looks really good on the bookshelf too.
Yeah, well, that was kind of one of the ideas was write the book, have some great illustrations that are not just the same photos we see again and again and again.
Yeah.
So.
And usually they're pretty bad in a lot of those type survival books. It's just, they're not great photos.
No.
Yeah.
So it's true. No.
That's awesome. So we're freaking stoked today because we're gonna talk to Donny and we're gonna pick his brain and we're gonna see what he's got going on. But before we do that, I gotta tell you about Battlebox. It's the monthly subscription box full of solid gear for adventure seekers, survivalists, outdoor enthusiasts, and casual preppers. Each month, Battlebox sends you the coolest selection of handpicked outdoor survival and everyday carry gear, all valued at far more than what you'd normally pay. You never know what's in the next box, but here's a sampling of what users received this month. The Dango M1 Maverick Bifold Wallet Spec Ops. Take that, Cam. And then the Wazoo Cash Cap. You can put a whole bunch of crap in your hat, and it's pretty cool.
Either your wallet or your hat.
Or your wallet or your hat, all that stuff. All this badassness starts at just $34.99 per month. They've shipped over 1 million boxes and won Best Subscription Box of 2020. Our listeners get a free knife when you sign up at battlebox.com/casualpreppers. Get your first Battlebox Plus, a free knife. Who doesn't like a free knife? I don't know. You'd have to be an idiot to not like a free knife.
True.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, just get one.
Just get one. Now that that's out of the way, let's get to Donny.
Oh, man.
Man, thank you so much for coming.
Yes, thank you. No, first off,
I've
always dreamed about sitting in this chair. I'm not going to lie. I've seen you two knuckleheads go back and forth with your voices, your accents, and just everything. And I'm like, man, I want to sit there one day. So a little life goal of mine has been checked. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me in the... I'm not going to reveal your exact location, but thank you for having me here.
Yes, man.
The honor is all mine. Appreciate
Anytime you would like to come, you're invited. Just always. And Cam and I were talking. You know what would be the coolest video is after Donny's done with the podcast, he stands up and it's just he brushes off dust and flint napping stuff. It's just
everywhere he goes, sitting in the restaurant, in the truck.
Yeah. And then I say, you've been dusted. You've been dusted.
Exactly. So, man, thank you so much. What we want to talk about today a little bit, we talk about a lot of the modern prepping stuff, obviously, here, if you've listened to it before.
We're casual.
We're very casual.
Casual.
But we want to talk about integrating the primitive type skills that you teach and that you're an expert in into modern prepping in some way, shape, or form? Because it almost feels a little daunting as someone like me or Cam, like, that's too much. It's too hard.
Yeah.
That shit is weird and hard to do. You know what I mean? And so we want to talk about some of that stuff. Before we get to that, I said, like, why do you do this? Like, what motivates you to go out into the wilderness with some buckskin and a rock and live the way that you do? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I think it really comes from just presenting and creating more challenges.
Sure.
So, I mean, if you're going, in a super extreme, you can definitely go out buckskins, stone tools, all of that. And I think I like that challenge. And it's not to say that I haven't or will never use saws, knives, tents, and things to that extent. But when I find those opportunities to kind of just make it the worst possible scenario and to see if I can overcome it, that's kind of that goal. And from that, kind of building your own, self-reliance and wilderness self-reliance, you learn different things. So just as we were doing some bow drill today with no modern anything, like no knives, no nothing, you could see a level of success. So I think it's establishing kind of a ground truth, saying if I was to lose all of my preps or my modern gear or whatever, do I have the ability to kind of go back to that foundation?
Yeah, and that totally makes sense, man. Like, really, it really does. Because that's the thing we worry about. It's like we have this tech that is so nice. Like, it's so awesome to have things that can do really convenient stuff for
you, right?
Yeah, but at some point there could be something like an EMP or whatever it is, and that stuff is just gone. And then you're left with what you have up here and what you can do. And so I understand that that's probably something that just makes you feel like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I would always preface this by saying I would go tech first.
For sure.
I'm going to use a knife. I'm going to use a tent. I'm going to use sleeping bags. But when that stuff goes away, or, I mean, how many of us have been whitewater rafting? We dump our boat and our stuff floats away.
It's all gone.
It's gone. So it's just having that backup. And I think if, just like if you have your primary blade you carry, if you have that small little pocket one, that's your backup. And I like to have a backup of depth, I guess you could say, especially in the primitive world.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And like this philosophy, I mean, I assume your philosophy is self-reliance, right? Is that connection to nature a piece of that? Because it kind of feels like it is with you. Like it always feels like you're getting back to nature in some way through the process of what you do, right?
Yeah, definitely. I believe that self-reliance stems from nature, because if everything was to disappear, where are we going to go to find those resources? Yeah, you can find them in, burnt out cities and all that sort of jazz, but you're still going to go to the natural environment to get those core resources, whether it is firewood or food or water. So there is that kind of deep connection to that landscape, that history, because that's really how we were able to, come from one place to another, all the way up to where we're sitting and talking on microphones.
Yeah.
We started off very simple with stone tools and scavenging animals, which is pretty awesome.
Oh, man.
I mean, you guys should push a mountain lion off a mule deer sometime. It's exhilarating.
I saw a mountain lion once in the wild, and it was exhilarating.
That animal terrifies me.
Just to see it is exhilarating. I got to ask this question, though, because Donny Dust, we see you out doing the things that you do. Does Donny Dust go home at night after making tomahawks and, licking buffalo bones or whatever you do? Do you go home and watch Netflix? Like, do you have like a normal? Okay.
Sure. I mean, I'm a father first. I have two teenage sons. One's 18, one's 15. And I've always prioritized my kids and the relationship with Marissa, my soon-to-be wife, as number one. And fortunately, all three of them understand my passions. So there are times when I'm gone for a week or 2 weeks and I come back. There's times where I'm gone for a single night and I come back. But I mean, we'll Netflix and chill. I think that's what the kids are saying.
That's what they say. Yeah,
that's what they say. So I mean, I'm down with it.
Okay,
I'm cool.
Good. I just you sometimes you wonder, it's like, do these guys ever microwave a TV dinner or something? You know what I mean? Or watch Netflix? Or
I don't have a microwave though.
You don't have a microwave?
I don't have a microwave, a toaster, a coffee maker.
No toaster?
No, we do have a harvest right, which is a freeze dryer. We've gone big on it, but
yeah, for sure.
We keep it very simple, and like if my kids are gone or they're at school or doing something, like we kind of do our own thing, and we keep life very, very simple with the idea of like simple is way better. Not a lot of complexity, not a lot of stuff, but
I think that's always better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think do you do that only because you just enjoy life better that way? Yeah. Or is it also kind of part of we shouldn't rely on it as much?
It's both.
Yeah.
It's way simpler if, you're not required to be like, oh, in order to execute this certain task, I need these 30 things. I just like to get it. And it's just simpler. You know what I mean? It's way easier.
There's something mentally too. I think that there's like a relief there mentally when things are simple.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's why I think part of people's lives.
Minimalistic, man. It's,
the anxiety.
I really want to live that way.
And the stress that people feel these days. It's just like so much going on and there's so many gadgets and all this stuff that you have to keep up and keep going. But hey, I don't have a friggin' toaster. Yeah. I don't care. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm just going to chill out and do my thing.
Well, it's the stuff. It's all the stuff that bogs us down. So imagine the scenario where you had to leave all your stuff. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to stay in place because that's where my stuff is.
Yeah.
And resources are there. Don't get me wrong.
For sure.
But my mentality is to leave and keep moving. I would never stay in one place for too long. One place becomes a target, and then resources, people that don't have, suddenly realize you do. So you
have to be able to do that with how you live.
Well, and to be able to do that is not easy.
No.
That's not something that the normal guy can just go out and say, oh, I'm going to be gone and I'm going to move from place to place to place to place. Because again, you have to have those types of skills that you have to make that work.
Yeah. Bingo.
Right?
And that's kind of one of those root, forms of it is being able to be mobile and go from place to place. You need to be able to understand the flora, the fauna, the environments, all those things that can be a resource as well as those things that can be a potential threat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. So I think we've probably asked you this before. You've been on one other time, but do you consider yourself a prepper in the sense of what Cam and I talk about all the time? Is that you do consider yourself something like that?
I have varying degrees of preparation. Even on the trip out here, my vehicle is prepared in the event that it was to break down. So small scale. But then in the event of, a huge blizzard or there's a fire in the area and I got to leave, well, I have those things that I already put in place, whether it is a bug out bag that is specific to myself and Marissa and the dogs or the kids. So things are prepared, but we have long-term food storage and water because it doesn't matter who you are. You should just have a little bit of your own kind of surplus of stuff to help yourself out as well as, community that's around you.
Yeah, for sure. And is that something that was sort of bred into you at an early age, or did you find that mentality of preparedness later on, through the Marine Corps or something? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think my folks were always kind of with that mentality, you should be able to take care of yourself. So if things were broken, we fix it. If we needed a new deck, we're building it. But I think my time in the military, seeing folks with so very little and being stuck in these locations and being dependent on, nefarious types or, Uncle Sam as he's standing there, you can quickly see, I should be able to stay in place if I have to, but I should be able to leave. I need to have those resources, medical sort of stuff, food, water, safety, all of it. I don't want to be dependent on anybody.
I totally get that, man.
And that's what we try to teach. It's if you can teach your neighbors next to you to not have, to be more prepared, it's saving you too.
Exactly. And it's really crazy.
The more people that can do this on their own, the better.
How little preparedness can get you so far. You know what I mean? It doesn't take much to get to a point where you don't have to be dependent on a million other people or a million other things. You can be self-contained for a week. That doesn't take that much.
No.
Yeah.
And I think when COVID hit, that was our test.
Yes.
That was our true test of being okay, do I need
You're
a PA. All the medical stuff you need that keep your family and your community sort of safe and secure.
Yeah.
Did you
the dependence on it.
Exactly.
Crazy.
So that was that rough test. And I think if people didn't take that rough test and say, all right, you know what, maybe we should have some backup foods or toilet paper, which seemed to have been a hot thing.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone was buying.
Hot item.
Yeah. Totally got to have it.
Flying off the shelves.
Gotta wipe right?
I love toilet paper, so I already had my toilet paper. I understand the thought.
Sure.
It's just funny that it always goes to toilet paper first for people. So how do I wipe my ass? What am I supposed to do?
Very nice thing.
Yeah, it's a nicety for sure, but it's you got to be able to wipe your ass.
But like with all the longshoremen that are on strike,
I
wonder how many people went out and
they did.
Yeah, tons of people. They were like, "Oh my god!"
I was at the Walmart last week, and the aisle for toilet paper was almost completely.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was. I was like,
I'm in trouble.
This is insane. You know,
already late.
It's just funny how quick they start to think about those things. Like we had that experience, obviously, doing what we do through that pandemic as a podcast. We saw a gigantic leap in downloads, right? People were like, "Oh, I need to understand like how to stay safe and prepared." And like it just giant
surge. Yeah.
About 3 months later, when it kind of chilled out,
we're fine. Everything's good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's just really funny how people's mentality. It's like when it hits, that's when they think about it, and then when it's gone. So, anyways, that's just like a hard thing to teach people, that it's a lifestyle. You have to continue to work on these things to actually be prepared, right?
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
This is like the stuff that you were showing us today, like with flint napping and starting fires. We couldn't do it once and then be ready to go.
No. Sure.
Right? Like you've been doing that forever.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that's the thing is like people have to be able to continuously work on these skills. They have to, and even if you like focus on doing, you know, a hard skill or soft skill like a month, just focus on it, because then it just builds in that whole kind of repertoire, and then go out and test yourself. Well, that was what I was talking about earlier, like creating that worst possible scenario for you and then testing yourself in it. That's kind of, I seek that out. I enjoy that.
For sure.
Yeah. It's weird. Like just watching you do it, I was like, man, like watching how you move and everything. I'm like, easily do that. And then I put it in my hands. I'm like, I can't even coordinate my fingers. Like,
there's the voice I was looking for.
Dude, it's
so
crazy
funny
how hard it is. Like just to twist like to use the bow drill. Like once you put it together, it works great. But I'm like, man, it's just hard to even get it. Yeah. You have to do it.
It's funny, It's when you see somebody who's done it for so long and is like a master at it, it's like those tools.
So fluid.
Those
so
tools
smooth.
are a part of you. Like you're just so good at, you know, and you look at it like, oh, that shit's easy.
Yeah.
That's easy to do.
Then you can't get your fingers to do anything.
Yeah. Did you cut yourself this morning?
I didn't.
Did you?
No,
you
I don't have a single.
That doesn't make any sense.
Draw
We were
any blood.
braiding the edges.
I think your knuckles they're
I was being very careful.
okay.
I was being very careful.
That might be the first time we've ever gone out
and
done stuff like that where he didn't cut himself.
Yeah, I think it was too.
So that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Progress, buddy.
You know, I wanted to like highlight the point. Like I asked you up there, because I figured for you, I'm like, you were probably born in a cave, conceived in a teepee or something. You know, I was like, he's grown up this way and knows all. You didn't.
No.
Like your dad is CEO, or I mean, he was a Harvard grad.
Yeah, he was a corporate executive. Went to this Harvard Business School. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, you know, and I had a very normal child. I mean, everyone likes to have these, you know, traumatic. I'm like, my parents love me.
Yeah.
And if we were ever short on money or food, that wasn't my concern. They would never let me know. So they gave me a loving home and they allowed me to be a young kid. And I got in trouble a lot. You know, this is the era where if you got in trouble, you had to go inside. But it was everything I could have really asked for. And, you know, we would always go fishing and hiking and different things. You know, we grew up in Colorado, but I just always had this love for the outdoors. It was like the best place to be, whether you were lighting a fire or building a fort, right?
I know, we were talking about that today and we kept saying fort. I mean, it's just like in our brains growing up was forts, man.
That's it. But yeah. So, I mean,
but that's awesome.
It just continued,
like, what you learned and done, it wasn't like just passed down because you grew up that way. Like, it's what you've taught yourself.
And it's kind of one of the rules I have with my two boys. It's like, you guys can't be me. Yeah. You guys have to be you. Like you've been exposed to a lot of this stuff and they've been exposed to a lot of other stuff, but you guys can't be me. Follow your own passions and pursuits and do your thing.
That's the way to do it, man.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, that would kind of bring me to a question. Like, how do you teach your boys that these primitive skills are important in everyday life? Because it's not like you've isolated them. Like, they use phones. Yeah. They live in the world.
For sure.
But also, like why, also for our listeners, why is it important I mean, we kind of hit on that already, but I'm just kind of interested how you kind of teach your boys that.
Yeah. So a lot of their experiences stem from my own, like, initiation, meaning, you know, I bring them out hiking, I bring them out camping, and I bring them to areas to really test them at times. And it started young. So, like, there's a couple different trails all through Utah and Colorado, and you walk 10 miles, you're carrying most of their stuff, they can get through it. Yeah. And over time they start to realize that they can go farther, they can go a little bit longer, and they can do, you know, a whole lot more with far less. And it's just a kind of a constant. It's never like Tuesday is flint napping night at the Dust. It's never the thing. It's just we do it, and I let them kind of come in and be like, hey, what are you making? Oh, I'm making, this sort of thing. And they'll come in and watch, hey, take some hits, and they'll do some hits. But they've butchered bison. They've butchered mule deer. Mm-hmm. They've got a lot of that. And we kind of did this final, before my son takes off for Europe, we did this like 42, 46 mile trail out in Utah, but we wanted to do it in one day. So we left at like 4 in the morning.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And we did it, but it was a kicker for sure. So we left at like 4 in the morning, didn't get back till like 9 o'clock at night. And we walked to the end, walked back all through Slick Rock. Wow. And it was cool because I had done that same trail with them when they were 5 and 7.
Was this the one you talked about in the book?
Yeah, in the very beginning of the book. That's, kind of where it kind of kicked off, I guess you could say. But we did another one, and now they're teenagers. They have facial hair and like hairy armpits. And they're like, we can totally do this in a day. I'm like, whoa, guys, just slow down. Let's let nature take us and guide us. They're like, no, let's do it in one day. I'm like, all right, we're going to do it,
Oh, wow. So that's a lot. Man.
Yeah, it's a lot. Crazy. It really is. And now like my oldest boy, he's heading to Europe, and he's hiking that like 450 miles from like France into Portugal, or Portugal into France, and then France into Spain. He's just going with the pack and a winning attitude, and
that's awesome.
Yeah. So
he knows.
They get it. Yeah. I mean, and I think it puts things in perspective for him, because we'll always go back to those days on the trail. Like, how was school? Oh, it was horrible. Was it as rough as that one day? No. God, no. I'm like, it's perspective.
Dude, cool. That is so true. Cool. Like building that perspective. Like if you don't ever do hard things, I don't know who I heard say this, but like the hardest thing, the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, right?
That's it.
So like you have to push yourself to do those hard things to get perspective. Like, they ran out of lattes at Starbucks. That's not hard.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's easy, right? Yeah. Going 42 miles with very little water, that's hard.
That's hard.
Right? Yeah.
And I think for me, a lot of my Marine Corps time gave me those worst days. So like days, no one's trying to kill me out here.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well,
not that you know of.
Yeah, that's right. Fingers crossed. Watching camera.
But I thought the camera crew was going to take you off and try and kill you.
You never know. But these guys are squirrely.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Works out.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, that's what I was wondering. Just teaching that stuff to your kids is always a worry of mine. I'm like, do you understand that life isn't as hard as you think it is today?
It's just like, not.
Oh man.
And you can push
it's really
through
hard.
All this stuff.
It's really hard to get that message across, especially to kids, because really their lives are so easy.
Very
easy.
I mean,
it's just like I look at my life to my kids' life. You're like, oh man, when I was a kid, my dad would whoop my ass, and it would have been like real bad, and like nobody was trying to entertain me all day. I was just out like throwing stuff at dirt and starting fires around the mountain. It's like,
it's true.
So my wife's always like, "Oh well, we got to entertain them." I'm like, no, we don't. Yeah. Don't entertain those kids.
I have a rule.
It's true.
Where like my boys, I'm like, I'm not your friend.
Yeah,
I am your father, and like friends will come and go, but parents will always be around.
Yeah,
and I think they understand that kind of relationship where I will only give them the truth, so they can ask me anything, and I'll tell them 100% the truth. And then they also kind of understand when I'm in dad mode and when I'm in dad mode. 2 modes, the exact same thing, but there's an invite and there's a request.
Yeah,
right.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and it allows them, gives them a little autonomy to make decisions on them, on their own. But they're hardworking. I mean, when it comes to shoveling driveways and it's snow, I'm like, cool, we did ours.
Yeah.
Now let's go do everybody else's.
And
I do it with them. Instead of me telling them to go do it, you just lead by example.
That teaches a lot to those kids.
Yeah.
Have they sort of, have they kind of understood your mindset when it comes to self-reliance and preparedness? Has that sort of sunk into them in a way that you hoped it would at some point?
I think it's there, but it's also for them to have those moments where it's like, oh man, wait, what did dad say
to
about
find
this?
It.
Yeah, they kind of have to do, if you try to give too much, it's just going to be a wall. It's just like if you're scrolling on social media, it's just too much. You just scroll past. Yeah. So you give a little bit of exposure and then let them kind of come to those sort of things. So, hey, how are you getting home from school? I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I haven't either. See ya.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's, you're not being mean. You're just taking a 15-year-old young man and saying, look, you have to take actions for yourself. You have to plan your certain aspects of your day out. And if you're not thinking about it, that's not my responsibility to think about what you're doing after school and how you're getting to practice.
Yes.
So take control, take charge of yourself.
For sure.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Nobody else will.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I've tried to figure out. It's like I have 3 girls, so it's a way different world that I live in, obviously, than you. But just trying to get them to understand the aspects of preparedness and self-reliance and to let it sink in a little bit. So maybe when they're married, they'll have like those thoughts like, oh, I need to be ready because my family's relying on me. I have to have these things. And I think it sort of does. There's points where I'm like, yeah, they're figuring it out. It's taking a little bit. Like even if we're like watching a movie or something and they're like, oh yeah, we'd be totally fine. We got bug out bags. We got this.
Bingo.
And it's just the thought of that. I hope like continues as a thread throughout their life. Like, you know what I mean?
It absolutely will.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what kind of kid you are or what kind of kids you have. Those things will start to kind of slowly register because they'll see the proof in the natural world and be like, oh my God, that guy's an idiot. Look at him.
Yeah, I know.
He's on his phone. He can't figure out how to change his tire, you know?
Yeah.
I know how to do it.
Exactly. Sure. Yeah. And you get older, then you start to look back on like the things your parents at the time you were like, these idiots. My parents are so dumb. And then you're like, oh wait, no, they kind of actually knew what they were talking about. And so you hope that at some point that they come back to that realization that like.
I think with your parents, a couple generations back, it was all self-reliance, preserving your own food, salting meats.
Yep. My parents came from that. So
bingo.
I see it a lot of how they just like, you know, well, they save everything for one thing, you know, and then my mom bottles stuff and all of that. It's just like they've learned to live on their own on the farm away from.
It's a way of life. It's not like something they even
It's just
thought
natural.
about.
Yeah, it just comes to them.
How many times have you eaten cereal out of a Cool Whip container because you're like, that's a good bowl. You know?
Grandparents,
Country crock.
Country crock. That all makes sense. And then when you're, you know, I'm 45 and now I'm like, well, I could probably fit something in there.
Exactly.
You don't want to throw. You're like very resourceful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so fun.
But I remember a teacher of mine. I always kind of joke with my kids, but I'm also being serious when I tell him. He would teach and then he would say, you need to go and struggle with it, and you really do. Because it's like there's no way you're going to learn it by just like hearing it and then okay, I'll apply that when the time comes. Like you gotta struggle with it. And boy, that bow drill, I struggled with that today.
That wasn't that bad.
You did good though, man.
No,
that was good.
But when you struggle with, it, you start to feel like you were saying. You can really feel like how much motion and how much like pressure you put into it, and so like you got to struggle with those things if you really want to learn them.
I think there's a lot of folks, they see stuff online, social media.
They think they got it all.
Exactly. But until
that 3
you
seconds taught me everything.
Well, I cranked it once or twice. There was some smoke and you're like, what the heck? And it's like, you do this for a while, but like when you actually get somebody to teach it to you or show you, get to see it in the flesh, that's where it's at.
It's so much better.
It's just a little troubleshooting. Hey, hold this.
God damn, you got that smoke so fast. I was almost like, wait.
I know
CGI, but I'm here in person. What's happening? How'd this happen so fast?
I was like looking at the stick. I'm like, is there a battery under it?
I know. It was like, oh man, that was crazy. I got to tell you guys about Element though, real quick. Okay, if you didn't know, electrolyte deficiency or imbalances can cause headaches, cramps, fatigue, weakness. It's like that time of the month for Cam. As people who want to be prepared and ready for anything, the last thing you need is something that will slow you down when you need to be ready the most. That's why we at Casual Preppers have teamed up with Element. It is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing that you don't. Look, we think it is perfect for bug out bags and EDC kits because it contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 mgs of magnesium. That stuff is good. Every Casual Preppers listener can get a free Element sample pack when you make any purchase through our exclusive link. That is 1 packet of every flavor. You can send it off to your friends, your aunts, your uncles, your PA, whatever. Send it over to them. They also offer no questions asked refunds on all orders. You don't even have to send it back, and that's pretty cool. Also, this offer can be claimed by first-time and returning Element customers, but you got to go through our link, okay? That is drinklmnt.com/casualpreppers. Get your order, your free sample pack. It's delicious, and they even have the sparkling Element now. This is what these boys over here are drinking. Donny Dust approved, right? Yeah.
Donnie was a little stunned by the salt.
He's like, this is salty. Yeah. It's right from the earth, though, buddy.
Yeah, nothing wrong. Like a seasoned steak.
Yeah.
Drink it from a can.
It's strong enough.
Watermelon flavored seasoning for your steak. So, So man, we talk about these primitive skills that you do a lot. So, if a modern city prepping boy like Cam or me were looking to make a list of those primitive skills that we wanted to work on, how should we order that? What would be at the top of the list? 2 or 3 maybe that you think that, you know, across the board are best to start working on?
Yeah, I think right off the bat, sheltering of some sort, exposure to the elements, desert, tropical environments. It's going to wind up getting you pretty quick. And I think understanding how to build a good shelter that really goes into that thermal regulation of your body, macro, micro climates of that shelter.
You're talking about forts, right?
Forts.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely the forts.
Couldn't quite get what you're talking about until you mentioned forts.
Shit, it sounds like he's talking about forts, but I don't know. Sorry.
No, I got it.
Yeah, a good fort will get you by, without a doubt. And
is there a chapter on forts?
There is. Okay. There's a fort chapter. So definitely shelters or forts. And then water's pretty essential. Like being able to source clean water or knowing how to process water, but not just water to drink, water to bathe, water to really, I mean, do everything and anything. Water that you have that is clean enough where you could wash wounds or where you could, you know, obviously consume, but having that source of water is pretty essential. And from the primitive standpoint, it comes in how do I find it? How do I know that this water is safe to drink directly or indirectly through boiling or, you know, saturation, something to that.
That's one of the things that probably scares me the most is understanding, like, what can I drink or how could I purify it when I'm out here? You know, that scares me.
Yeah,
living out in the wild.
Yeah,
you know,
water will get you.
Yeah,
it'll definitely get you. And then I think like healing, safety, as far as like first aid, medical stuff.
Okay,
because I mean, a rotten mouth or trench foot or a small cut, that's going to bring you down quick as anything. And there are a lot of medicinal plants in the natural environment, but it's important to know those plants and then how to turn them from that plant form into that kind of healing form.
Right.
Because I mean, I was sick on alone. I spent days looking for some yarrow. If I could have found some yarrow, I couldn't find it. I knew that was my one kind of golden nugget. And I tried some of the Labrador tea. I tried several different things, but I couldn't get rid of it.
Yeah.
And that's just the name of the game. So getting sick in the bush, I can tell you I've been sick, I've been cut, I've been injured. It is not a good place to be, but if you have that kind of skill set, that primitive skill set to find those things and heal yourself, you're good to go. So shelter, water, and definitely, because I mean, you could throw fire in there, you can throw food, you can throw all that sort of stuff, but like if you don't have water, you're dying. If you're exposed, you're dying, and if you're sick or you're injured, you're pretty much gone. I mean, fire, I'd like to stay warm, but I'm not going to need it right off the bat, especially food, you know.
Right, yeah.
I complain about the whole medical thing constantly. It's just like we live in a society where, like I've covered urgent care and emergency medicine where it's just the stupidest crap. I'm like, does anyone know how to take care of themselves?
Exactly.
So the primitive skills obviously would give you the super boost to be able to, you know when you're sick, what you need to do when you're sick, and I mean, even more so, what kind of medicinal plants would be huge.
Yeah, that comes back to that self-reliance thing. People, it's like the second they feel a sniffle or a headache, it's
they
like,
go right to urgent care.
We got to go to urgent care.
It drives me insane.
Right now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, no, man, you don't.
Yeah.
And you need to understand that because you get into an SHTF situation or something and you're freaking out because you have a headache or your tummy hurts. It's like, you can't be doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're going to go to the one spot where everybody else is going to go because they don't.
16 other diseases.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like Marissa is great at medicinal plants. I mean, I came back from the Amazon, had a parasite within 3 days out of her teas and stuff. Parasite was gone. Like,
it works.
It totally works. And it just takes time to know those plants. And I always stress to folks, like, people have different bug out locations. But if you're leaving your home or residence, whatever that situation is, you're going to your bug out location, you have to know all of the flora specifically from your starting point to your end point. If you have checkpoints along the way, because you might have resources that you can take. So when you see it, you take it and start that harvesting. Like right now, I have a tincture going at the house of usnea. And I always do it right before winter. Usnea, 70% vodka, does a little extract, but it is great for colds. It is like my number one remedy for colds. And I used it all through like COVID.
Wow.
Never an issue. I mean, you can do a secondary, you can do a couple things to do the full extract, but it's It's freaking great. And I still use it to this day.
And like everybody only heard vodka there.
Just got to drink vodka. We'll get through.
You said vodka and some weeds.
Vodka and weed. That'll be it.
Oh man, yeah, that just feels overwhelming sometimes. As like a normal person, and not that you're not normal, but you know what I mean. Just an everyday person is like, well, how am I supposed to learn all of this stuff? Yeah. That just seems very overwhelming when you have so much other things going on in your life. I mean, The Bachelorette's going right now. You know, it's like my mind space is filled up with that kind of stuff. Anyway, it just feels very daunting. Like, oh, you got to know all the flora, fauna, all this.
But you don't have to know it all. But like when you guys started prepping, you started small.
Sure.
And then it just grows and grows and grows.
True.
It's the same thing. I've talked about straight 8, 3 plants that you can eat, 3 plants that are for medicinal purposes, and then 2 plants that are for tools, portages and poisons and things like that. Study 8 plants for 1 full year.
Yeah.
Winter, spring, summer, fall, all the way to winter. So you know what they all look like, because roots during the winter are still options. Study 8. Just pick 8.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Study them for 1 year.
That's
and
a
then
great
you'll
way.
know those plants.
That makes sense. Yeah. So like there's all these different skills, and obviously some are more important than others for survival, but like for you, what's the most enjoyable ones? Like what are the ones where you're like, man, I just want to get out and do it some more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, oh God.
Because for me, like if something is enjoyable, I'm going to do it more and I'm going to get better at it, right? So anyways, if you find something that is enjoyable, probably better, right?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy the long-term living.
Okay.
Like remotely with like no monitors.
You're crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You're so crazy.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, the long treks, the long walks, or the earth rooms as I like to call them, just very minimal stuff and just going. And like, you're gonna be tired and sore and potentially sick, but it's like, God, it's awesome. And then the stuff you make in between. So obviously flint knapping, the whole stone tool thing is just an addiction of mine that will never go away. And I enjoy, the hunting aspect of it. Like if I can incorporate those 3 things, in one, which I typically do, like any environment, whether it's the remote deserts, high mountains, jungles, does not matter. That's
your thing.
That's my jam.
What is it about the long-term thing do you think that like really appeals to you? Like what is it that like pulls you to it,
Yeah, all the rules go out.
Yeah.
There's no like you have to do this first and then do this. It's like whatever that environment is telling you is like, all right, it's 90 degrees out, the sun is blazing, it's overhead, there's no cover. I got to focus on getting myself into some shade. And then I need to focus on getting water. But all of a sudden, if something pops up that I can eat, I'm like, well, now I'm going to eat this. Like you don't have to play by the stuff you see on TV or everything that's written in a book. You have to have in the Marine Corps, we always, we have Semper Fidelis, always faithful. We have Semper Gumby, like always flexible. So whatever comes your way, you have to deal with. And like some of the videos I make are not planned out. It's just like, oh, I found 3 deer legs because Finn, my dog, found 3 deer legs. Let's pull the sinew out and go that route. So it's kind of having that spontaneity to kind of be creative in that process and just dealing with whatever comes. Saying, I'm leaving on this day. I'm coming back on this day. And whatever happens.
Who knows what's going to happen in the middle? It's
like
just freestyle
freedom
survival.
Feels really nice.
Yeah, you just live.
Yeah.
It's just living.
Yeah. Sure. It's just like you just get rid of all the other crap, all the borders, the
I can
fences.
See that being addicting.
I want to go out there and just be
just
kind of thing.
And start with one night.
Yeah.
Start with one night. There's a lot of folks that have like this paranoia about staying out at night in darkness. Leave at 4:00 in the afternoon. Yeah. Walk until it's, maybe an hour before lights are out, and then just stay. Then you don't have the whole day to think about staying out there. Just cut it short, and then you're walking out the next day.
That is a thing, that out there at night in the woods, your brain starts.
It's so weird. It's the same thing you just saw.
Yeah,
and you walked through, but as soon as you can't see very far, you're like, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I don't know why that.
You love it.
Oh God, yeah.
You love it.
Yeah.
Some people do.
I
think just being out in it probably gets you way more comfortable with it.
Yeah, your testosterone fires up. You want to eat meat.
I lost all that.
Let it drip down your beard.
I haven't had any of that for a while. Any testosterone.
What's that now? Testosterone.
My way of living has suppressed it.
Get it. Yeah. Drink that element. That might help, buddy.
Yeah. One thing with like preppers, and you probably see it a lot, is there's a problem with just like gathering tons of gear.
Yeah.
So, like, tell us about how. I mean, I saw like your bag. It's small, and you've probably got all the essential stuff you need in there. So tell us about tell us about like skills versus stockpiling a bunch of gear. Like, in what way can you? It goes back kind of to the minimalistic approach too. It's like, if you know how to do certain things, you really need all that gear.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I'll preface it by simply saying this, that most folks that are really in the bushcraft and survival and primitive skills, all that's self-induced, meaning that I get to decide where I'm going, how I'm going, and what I'm going with. Mm-hmm. If it is a SHTF sort of scenario, you don't get that option. Mm-hmm. You just have to rely on what you've prepared. So we kind of have to look at those two worlds and say, because I choose to go out like this, I have that autonomy to make those choices and kind of live within that spectrum. Yeah. However, if I don't, then whatever I have is going to be my resources. I can still fall back on my knowledge, skills, and abilities, but I'm going with the high-tech stuff right off the bat. Like, right. I'm packing my firearms.
That's awesome. That's a good question I had too. So you put that in with your firearms? You're not fully like, just take this rock and I'm good.
No. I mean, those will come in an aspect of potential pursuits, meaning like firearms draw noise, they draw a lot of things, but I don't care, because at a certain point it's a show of force.
Right.
The physical presence and then the actual utilization of said named weapon. Mm-hmm. However, if you want to be discreet, then you go to different options. Mm-hmm. If it's hunting, you're trying to kill neighborhood cats because you want fresh meat, whatever that scenario is. And fingers crossed that's happening. But there's an escalation of force based off of the things that I have. But I'm definitely going in that high tech stuff right off the bat, and I'm getting in my truck, driving out, burning my house down. And that's
I'd love to hear that, because a lot of people do think that, we've had people reply to us like, well, what are you going to do with that? It ain't going to be worth a crap in, an EMP or whatever. But we have excellent technology. We have, multi-tools that are very useful. So it's good to hear that you still incorporate that into prepping plan. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, why would you not take the advantage up front? Mm-hmm. You should take the advantage up front. And then if that advantage goes away, fall back to that. All right, what do I need to do to overcome this? I mean, how many people can open a can without a can opener?
I can open a can of whoop ass without.
My thing is, I ain't bringing cans.
But you don't have cans to worry about.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to play it out, but I definitely.
But those primitive skills, they're going to always be available to you.
I think it's just being well-rounded, well-rounded as you can, right? Absolutely. It's like, for us, we don't really have expertise in anything, but if it's more modern prepping, then the primitive stuff we would have to continue to work on to be well-rounded. I mean, same thing with a guy that's like your primitive skills are top notch, but you got to have that other side to be well-rounded, right?
Exactly. Like, and both of those will answer, some immediate threats and concerns.
Yes.
And the prepping will go number one always.
Right. Yeah.
Primitive skills, the whole survival sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It's all on the back burner until I need to employ them. It's good to have them, but they're not my immediate thing.
For sure.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. But it's good to fill those gaps. Yeah. Right. Like, absolutely. It's a gap filler.
Absolutely.
For crazy times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Speaking of crazy times, I need to mention something important to those technology lovers.
Oh, okay.
It's how to protect yourself from cybercrime.
Okay, let's hear it.
Let's talk about Surfshark. They can protect you and all of your devices. When you go online, you basically shield yourself from all those a-holes that are trying to crack the code, steal your information, take all your Dickies points.
Was it Dickies?
Dicks.
Dicks points. Yeah, that's
all your Dicks points. You don't want that. So Gray Man, going Gray Man online can be done through Surfshark. It'll connect you to a server in France or anywhere in Europe or South America, so they can't trace it back to you, which is pretty awesome. You don't have to worry about malware, phishing, obnoxious emails, and unsafe ads or emails. My family clicks on those often.
Yeah, sure.
So, but you can get Surfshark by going to surfshark.deal/casualpreppers, and you will get 24 months, plus they'll throw in 3 to 4 extra months, over 2 years of protection for less than $60.
Gosh, damn.
It is the best way to go online. If you travel a lot and you're getting on public Wi-Fi, I mean, you're exposed the whole time that you're on that. So don't do it. And it's an easy-to-use app, and you can install it on everything that you own, and I would go and get it. Again, surfshark.deal/casualpreppers. Save some money, protect yourself.
Thanks, Cameron.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Word.
Got to get it out there. Got to get it out there.
I mean, it's a good point though. In a high tech world, sometimes you got to go low tech.
You do. It's true.
It's very. Right? That was like one of our number one skills taught when I went to like counter intel school was high tech world, go low tech. Stay off the digital landscape and go very low tech.
Yeah, with that communication, especially, right?
Absolutely,
that makes total sense.
It's all in our hand or in our pocket. It's crazy. It's kind of scary.
It is kind of scary.
Yeah. Everything's on there.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you. So, a lot of these skills that you do, they're kind of a throwback to our ancestors, right? Like it's kind of the way that they just lived all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. So when you look at that, what do you take from that, looking back at those cultures and those people who lived that way? What is it that you, Donny Dust, take from what they've done for thousands and thousands of years?
Yeah. I mean, I think the number one thing I acknowledge and then I kind of take from it is the struggle that they had to go through. In like the worst conditions with megafauna looking to eat them left and right. And it was just like the worst environments, but they were able to flourish with the most basic of skills.
It's amazing they made it through some of them, right? How did we persist as a species with they had, saber-toothed tigers and mammoths and crazy stuff trying to kill them all the time. And
seeing some of the people nowadays, you're like, man, our ancestors
How
were
did they
super
make it?
disappointed.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have become this.
But I think that's the beauty of it is like we lived in a stone age longer than we've lived in a steel and iron age. So, I mean, all those things provided the solutions that we needed, whether it was medicinal plants or food or fire. I mean, there's been studies where, ancient hunter-gatherers, Neanderthals specifically, would harvest some sort of large megafauna, and then they would take those bones, bring them back to their cave, and they would preserve those bones specifically to extract the marrow at a later date. And that marrow will stay fresh in that bone in kind of a cool, dry place for up to 9 weeks. So even
they were using food storage and everything.
They were prepping.
Wow.
That's cool. And when you really think about it, like the idea of being prepared goes back thousands and thousands of years to saying, we can live and we can survive, which is just getting by. But when we thrive, that's when we have a little bit more of that luxury. We have a little bit of stockpile of stuff. So food preservation and understanding how certain plants at certain times of the years will cure certain ailments. I mean, that's all that longevity of knowledge that we still have in different ways, but it comes from Neanderthals and Homo sapiens and just early, hominids that roamed all throughout this planet.
Yeah, it's like preparedness, the aspect of it. It's like it's in our DNA. It's like as a human species, it's something that we've been doing forever. Almost. Yeah.
And it can't be looked at as something negative.
Yeah.
It has to be looked at as it's in our DNA. It's part of our culture. And it's how we take care of ourselves as well as that small community of folks around us. Squirrels do it.
Yeah.
I mean, simple animals, bees, ants, squirrel. I mean, so many things prepare. It just makes sense. Why not just replicate what the natural environment does? Because they live in the natural environment season to season, and they're doing just fine.
Well, I think that's part of the problem with the modern world is we've taken ourselves out.
Now we're in a little bubble
of nature, out of that. We're just like in this technological bubble where everything works like clockwork until it doesn't, obviously.
Yeah.
And so your mind never goes to that place of, what if there is no food at the grocery store? I think it's a problem with a lot of people, obviously. That's why we preach what we preach, is because we want more people to think about that.
Exactly.
But it's hard for people because we're just in this cycle of everything's right there when I need it, on time, fresh fruit, fresh. It's not always going to be the case. It won't. There's just no way.
Exactly.
Right?
And when you think about it, have we ever had an apocalypse? Yeah.
Plenty, I think,
Hiroshima, volcano, all those things. People that are in those extreme sort of situations, they have experienced it firsthand. And I can guarantee you their kids, and their kids, they have a different level of preparation because they have that ground truth into what's actually happened. I mean, you guys are in Utah. There's a few trees out where we're at.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
But where I'm at in Colorado, we've had a lot of fires. And I've evacuated my house several times, and it's very easy with less stuff to be like, all right, let's grab the bags. Let's make sure we top off on dog food.
We're fine.
Truck's always full. We're out.
But that's the thing. You didn't even have to really think about it because you've prepared already.
Bingo.
Those other people that haven't thought about that moment comes and it's
a panic.
It's a shotgun.
Grab my laptop.
What do I do?
Grab the family
call
files.
somebody.
Yeah. It's all,
it's just
they
crazy.
lose so much time just sitting there.
Yeah, you talk about like, have we had apocalypse? I mean, those things are happening constantly on the East Coast right now. There's hurricanes hitting like crazy. There's this flooding in North Carolina.
Bingo.
Those are apocalypses if you are there.
Exactly.
Right? But when you're in, Oregon and you're looking at that like, oh, that's not us. We don't have to worry about it. It's so hard to get people to comprehend.
A lot of people
that.
live calm lives,
Yeah.
They think it's stressful, but
Yeah, I don't know. And so when you look at those ancestors and these skills and things, there has got to be, I mean, for you specifically, but for other people, there's got to be this mental and psychological benefit from doing these things and from learning about these things, right? You've got to see that, I assume.
I mean, the natural world is very healing, and I think all these skills and learning them and experience them, it makes your life very easy. Meaning we're like, I'm not so hyper focused on being able to post this or to go to this. It puts me in a kind of a framework saying, all right, I love this. I love doing this. I love having these knowledge, skills, and abilities.
Yeah.
And I know that it's giving me peace. It's giving me and presents a value in my life. And that value might not be for everybody, but for me, and how it's kind of translated into my kids as well as into Marissa, it's like we enjoy it.
Yeah.
We see it as a place of peace. We see it as a place of adventure. And more importantly, it's like the place we want to go. Like when we were driving out here, I was like, oh my God.
Stop there. Go
we
there.
need to go. Oh, did you, what is this? And she's like, was that mullen? I'm like, yeah, there's plants all over. It's one of those things. And I think, from that ancestral standpoint, like they were the lucky ones because they never had to live in this kind of modern world. And don't get me wrong, the modern world does
true.
a lot
I think
of great
about
things.
that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of great things. Communication, medicines. There's a lot of good things that can stem from this modern world, but is it 100% necessary?
Yeah.
Yeah, you get to choose.
I think you have to have a piece of this old world. You have to, like, even just this morning, okay, we were up on the mountain for a few hours. It's like a reset almost. Just stepping foot out there in the trees and in the sagebrush and touching, wood and stone. It's like, okay, it's a little bit of a reset. Come back down. And
it's weird
back
how
to this.
your mind like opens up. Like it's something that's all like been held back, and you get out there and you smell the environment and everything, and man, it's so relaxing.
I think one of the biggest
kids, when you get them up there, like sometimes they're like, I don't want to. Like, is your internet up on the mountain? But then when you get them up there, like I'll give them like a hatchet, and they'll just go out on their own and go to town on things, and like they love it, and it's weird. But what I'm explaining is just like you have to get out there to experience that and let your mind open up, and I think that's where some of that ancestral comes back to you. It starts to like seep back in.
Yeah, it's like this is natural. Why is this familiar? I mean,
it does feel familiar.
Feels good. The last hike I did with my boys, we were probably like on the 30 miles in, and it was hot. I mean, top of Slick Rock, it's just radiating heat. And we eventually came down in this little draw, and there was a stream, and we just stripped down to our skivvies and just soaked in this water and just cooled down. And like as we were there, I think my youngest one was like, I bet people have been in here before doing this for countless years. I'm like, you're absolutely right. Like, you're hot. How do I get cold? Problem solved. I'm like, just simple problem solving things. If we can give that to kids, here's a hatchet. Go get some firewood. Well, how do I get it? Figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll show you a way, not necessarily the way. Go
get it done. For me, it's when I go out camping or I'm in the mountains hunting with my dad or whatever. It's like at night is when I really feel it. Like I'm next to a fire.
Yeah.
You look up and you see the stars and you're like, oh, right. Like this is like a whole thing. Like I'm on this big rock. There's like all these, trees and animals, and up there it goes on
Life
forever.
Is going.
You're like, oh yeah, okay. I got to recenter myself a
this
little bit.
This is normal.
This is normal. And that's what everybody had seen forever and ever and ever. How often do people even see the stars anymore? You're in the city, and you know what I mean? You're driving to Taco Bell at 12 a.m., but you don't see that kind of stuff.
No.
It's a reset, you know? So yeah, I feel like there are huge mental benefits and psychological benefits that people can get from this stuff. But I assume there's probably also physical benefits, right? I mean, because physical health is one thing that I think in the United States specifically is super lacking. And I think this kind of stuff is a great way to probably to improve that, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the natural world, you got to work for things. Nothing's just going to come super easy to you. So, I mean, while you're out there, I mean, winter's around the corner, so I'm always trying to bulk up because winter's coming.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
it's you know, it's a very mental thing. I think in Japan they have something called Shinrin Iroku, which is forest bathing.
So like a Nintendo? Or no,
it's a pro pad.
It's
forest
a pro
bathing.
pad.
Yeah, I've heard that actually.
Yeah, it's just called forest bathing. Take your shoes off, go sit out there, and just be. And like it just instantly lowers people's stress and anxiety and all that stuff. Same thing with physical activity. Like if go for a run, go for a hike, go out there and do these things because that's what, I mean, when you really think about it, yes, the natural environment can be a very stressful place. Yeah. But if you have certain controls over it and you're not fighting an animal or trying to gain some food or something, you kind of have a certain kind of, dictation on how that's going to go. And I'm just going out. I'm going to go listen to a waterfall. I'm going to go for a hike. Maybe all got to see the sunrise this morning. We all enjoyed it. And like some people don't get to experience that. And maybe part of that stress is because they're not experiencing it. Right?
Yeah, it's true. And I do think that like kids' development and the anxieties and depression and all that is partly because of the world we've created for them.
Absolutely.
And so getting them out there. And there's so much to learn. And I think that sometimes is a little bit of a turnoff for, it's like I can grab the gear. I can buy the backpack. I can buy a knife. And I can throw a book in my bag. But like, how would you recommend go about like learning some of these skills, these primitive skills?
Buy that book.
Yeah.
That's why, I mean,
it's
literally
broken. Like, I like how you, like the headers. I mean, everything is.
The book is literally, it should be your introduction into the natural world. Basic stuff, incorporating high tech, low tech, and no tech. Understanding what makes a good tree for a shelter. How do you set up a tarp? Like different things that you can do at a very, I don't want to say basic level, but at a level that is appropriate for young children to adults to say, I just need to get out there. Here's some foods. This is how I can cook a squirrel. This is how I can do, bow drill and tracking. So, and it's all coming from a point of ground truth. Like there's nothing in there that I haven't done or experienced, successes and failures. So it's just not regurgitated information you see 1,000 times. Like talking about knives, I'm like, knives are tools. I mean, based on whatever thing I need that knife for, that's, what if I'm in a jungle, I'm using a machete. It's a lot of things, but I do think that folks should spend a little bit more time outside, not necessarily because I might find myself in a survival situation, but more importantly, because it's healing, it's a value, and it's going to probably just kind of present a whole kind of, why do I feel like I know this? Yeah. Why do I feel like this sunrise is hitting me in a different way? Everyone will stop and take a photo of a sunrise or a beautiful mountain. They'll do it routinely and religiously. Yeah. But they won't do it for other things they might see in a city.
Like a Taco Bell.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I'm not saying I've never taken a picture of a Taco Bell, but sunrise, I have way more sunrise photos.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do like how your book has like, you could work on one chapter and just go through that on a camping trip with your family or something like that.
That's it.
What about, other thing is I think you do workshops as well, right?
I do, yeah.
Do you recommend those for people to kind of?
Yes and no. I recommend people find people that are, involved in survival and pyramid scale, bushcraft, all that sort of stuff. You have to look at that person as somebody who's conveying knowledge to you. Now, where are they getting their knowledge from? Is it coming from just a book, or is it coming from multiple years of living in certain environments and experiencing this and experiencing that? Because in this day and age, anybody can become a survival instructor. Yeah. And like for me, there's a lot.
Look, we've been accused of being survival experts, and we're like, look, first off, don't ever say that again, you idiots. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Like the moniker can be given to you even if you're not trying to get it.
Exactly. It's like the vetting and the validation of that is pretty important. Whether you have insurance to bring people out, are you a licensed guide? Yeah. There's so many things that if you want to do, teach this sort of skill set, you need to spend some time in the bush where you can speak from a ground truth standpoint, not just something, well, I read in a book once. Because I've done a lot of like workshops where I've gone to different schoolhouses and I see what they do, and that's totally fine. A way, not necessarily the way, but I know it's not coming from a place of, look, this is
experience.
Yeah, this is how I failed 100 times trying to do this, and this is where I've gained successes. So I think it'd just be like if you went to a lawyer or a doctor or was going to have somebody, engineer your house.
Yeah.
There should be a little backstopping to it. The workshops I run, I used to do large groups. I really shut it down to maybe one-on-ones or people like, you guys know each other, brothers, sisters, something like that.
Yeah.
Because when you have 10 people and you're trying to get 10 people to do a bow drill, there's somebody who's always going to get it. And there's going to be a handful of people that are struggling. Yeah. And all the attention goes to the struggle instead of the guy that's got him. Maybe he was lucky. So I try to just refocus it and just do a lot of one-on-ones, unless it's like a butchering class or a flint napping class. I might do like 4 people or I'll do a family. But I like to have that connection between the people, eliminate that kind of weird group dynamic where, there's a guy who's like, oh, I've seen a lot of YouTube. And you're like, cool, help me teach. Well, why don't you do it? I'm like, all right. Shut your hole.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
But so basically, if anybody's interested in classes, you can just go to donnydust.com, send me an email, and then we will start a dialogue where I would build a class around what you want. So
that's awesome.
I use this as my example. If you're a single father with 2 daughters, you're not worried about shooting elk with a homemade bow, but making sure that you and your daughters can go for, a camping trip over a weekend. You can bring them in there successfully and bring them out successfully. That's what your kind of pattern of life is. Well, now we can paint the scenarios that could go wrong or the things you need to prepare for in that environment. So we're not being like, let's go and just go extreme. If you want to go more extreme into the primitive skills, because maybe you have an archaeology degree and you actually want to, look at some of these things in a different capacity. I build the courses around the folks. So then their needs are getting met instead of me just, I taught 20 people in a class. That's not fun.
Like awesome. So it's tailor-made to your situation.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Custom. Everything's, custom. But like we have the bison butchering class coming up next weekend. Like that one is people can sign up. We'll do some, we have a 2,400-pound bison. It's it's like a 6-year breeding bull. He bred this last time, so I feel bad for him.
That's it.
He's done.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, there's no use to life killing.
Yeah, he's done.
I feel like I'm almost there.
Yeah. But like
time to butcher him.
That's 8 people coming.
Wow, yeah.
So, I mean, everyone's walking away with a lot of meat, and like part of that class is how they're going to preserve their meat, like different cuts of meat. How do we break bones? So there's quite a bit to it instead of like we're just here to cut open a bison.
Right.
We are using stone tools because that's just cool.
So awesome. Yeah. And I can tell you, like, Donnie was teaching us stuff this morning. It was so much fun. Like, we had a blast. Like, it was just fun.
Yeah.
To be out there and see a master do it, and then you go and try to, and you're like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah.
Well, you guys did the feather stick, right?
Yeah.
With the stone
Very
flag.
Cool. Yeah.
The stone made
flint napping was so much fun.
Yeah.
Like, gosh, man.
It's crazy how useful stone. Like, I would think, well, I got a knife. I don't really need stone. But it almost seemed like it worked better
it
for
did,
certain
man.
things.
It was insane.
Like, you can see why it's been used that way.
Yeah.
Welcome.
And so and you talked about like skill development workshops for some people, and you talked a little bit about like the plant base. It's like take 8 plants and learn about those plants to kind of stretch out your skill. Any other tips that you have for people to incorporate skill learning into their daily lives to kind of like add to,
I think people need to be physically fit. So
yes,
I break it down to knowledge, skills, and abilities. All 3 unique things. Knowledge is just the facts. The skills are being able to perform some of those facts, and the ability is to incorporate those knowledge and those skills. So like if you're struggling with a bow drill or you're not able to complete a hike, you need to take a personal reflection and say, I need to know myself and seek self-improvement, because that will be the gateway to doing things in this book, to starting a logical prepping practice so you can take the necessary actions. Like, I mean, you have to be physically fit to do a lot of things. And if you are struggling with weight or what you eat or, whatever that case may be, it's not hard. Just be like, all right, I need a change. I need to reevaluate what's important to me. And this is it. So that's definitely one thing. And then I think having the basic functions of gear to answer any sort of problem. So like even if I go out snowshoeing with my boys, I'm not bringing like a hand drill set or a bow drill set.
Sure, yeah.
I'm bringing some paracord in case of binding breaks, a ferro rod because
that applies to that.
And probably even before that ferro rod, I've got a lighter in my pocket because I'm going there first, and if that doesn't work, then I'm going. So just think about what you're doing and what are the problems you could kind of come across dehydration, being cold, all those sort of things, and say, all right, how do I solve those problems?
Right.
And then address those problems by putting in pack. Like, I'm not wearing my fanny pack. I usually wear like a little fanny pack that's got just enough stuff in it that, you know, you never know.
It's like your EDC.
It's
right?
essentially
Basically
what it is.
Yeah.
And, but that's enough to get me by if I need to.
I would love to see what's inside your fanny pack. Like
it's a stone blade.
Mostly just stone blades and
a flashlight.
Some weeds, a mortar and pestle. I don't know what's in there.
And stuff. Oh, okay.
But yeah, man, it's knowledge, skills, and abilities. Make sure you're healthy.
Yeah.
Start.
Yeah, the healthy part. Man.
But I think that's across the board.
About that a lot.
We do talk about it so much. It's
Yeah.
like, what are you prepping for if your body isn't making it to the next week anyways?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to, it's just so important.
And even when Donnie got here and shook my hand, like fractured my wrist, dislocated my shoulders. I was like, I'm weaker than I thought.
That's true. And now you know that you need to work on that.
I will die.
Yeah, you're going to be dead.
Yeah.
For sure.
You're not going to die. Oh, man, that's funny.
Man, this is awesome. This has been so much fun.
My pleasure.
This morning was a blast up there on the mountain. Like, and you know, we're going to probably put out some videos pretty soon, so you guys got to check those out. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
So cool to
There's
see.
so much information to extract from your brain. So you need to come
you guys need
every
to come.
year at least.
We are.
You guys got to come.
We were talking about that.
Yeah, next spring or, you know, tail end of spring into summer. You guys can bring your families or you guys can come and then we can do a later one with the families.
Yeah.
But you guys need to come out. We're going to strip down.
Oh, I already like it.
Like right now or okay.
Strip down to the bare minimum. And we're going to go out with just like my core 4 of stuff and we're just going to go live.
What's your core 4? What's the core 4?
So it's a blade, a blanket, a bottle, and then some aspect of fire, a burn.
Okay, yeah.
And that none of them have to be, they can be high tech, low tech, or no tech. So
okay.
High tech can be, you know, your ferro rods, you know, sleeping bag, low tech, maybe a wool blanket. But in that like no tech, it's like maybe an animal skull we're drinking out of or a clay pot.
Yeah.
Some stone blades. I'll fashion some loincloths. I'll get your measurements before we leave.
I thought about showing up in one.
Yeah, he did actually. He sent me a gift like this is how I should dress tomorrow.
Should I come and show up like this? Yeah.
I made a promise to someone I wouldn't wear my stuff. So.
Oh, did you? I hate that.
Man, that sounds amazing. Like it sounds terrifying. I'm done. But amazing. You know what I mean?
We're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do it. Absolutely.
Like, what about ibuprofen in my pocket or a sleep aid?
And
is that off limits?
Yeah.
Can't do it.
You can bring it.
Tums,
but like the natural environment will have all those same things.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I got you.
Man, they got Xanax out there too in the natural envivorment.
I got mushrooms, man.
Okay. Yes. Dude, he's got answers for everything.
I mean,
here's really anti-diarrheal bark. And I'm just chewing on it the whole time.
It's like a chew in your lip. Anti-diarrheal bark.
Let's go.
Never ends. So if somebody wants to go see what you do, to check out your books, to check out your school, to check out everything, where do they go?
DonnyDust.com. That's kind of the hub. There's book links there. There's my contact info, YouTube, all that sort of stuff is on DonnyDust.com.
Okay.
Social media links, the whole 9 yards.
Nice. And you got to check out the social media. Like, my gosh.
Oh, geez.
Like the TikToks are just so good.
Yeah.
And they just blow up, man. Blow up.
People are hungry for it.
They are.
They see a breaking stone.
Natural, man.
And they're like, what are you doing? You're like, well, the same thing we've been doing for like 3 million years. They're like, what? So yeah. And I blame my son for it because this was not my path. But he's like, I want to go on it. I'm like, well, as a responsible father, I need to see this. And then there's like 18-year-old girls dancing. I'm like, dude, you gotta get off on this stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, just do your stuff. I'm like, So I did it, and then
I think you got in at a good time too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like you were COVID-ish time, like right around there. I'm trying to remember when I first saw
kind of
it.
exploded. It's great stuff.
Yeah.
So unique too. It's so
really
much better than the garbage. That's
oh
on
my
there.
gosh. Yeah. It's you have to go check it out. Go check them out there.
Those dance videos are fine, but yours is way better.
Well, if you had some dance videos, maybe that would be amazing.
No way.
Think about it.
I mean, there's some videos where like people ask, how do you charge your cell phone? Because that's what I film on.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you plug it into a tree, and I'll plug it in, and they're like, I had no idea, and I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, I'm failing the world.
Oh man, yeah, it's pretty, it's insane. You go down and look at comments. Sometimes you're like, these people, how do they make it?
Yeah,
don't know
through the day. Yeah. Sometimes
but those people, they give me the ideas.
Yeah,
they ask, can you do this? Can you show me this? So it's all of their feedback. And I'm a huge supporter of the idea that you should engage with those people that engage your stuff.
100%.
Yeah, so many people have this mentality of like, oh, I want to post and ghost or ghost and post. And I'm like, you're missing the point. People are looking to you from a certain expertise or certain knowledge set. You should want to reply. And it's easy to say, I can't get to 1,000.
You can't. Yeah.
But if I post and I'm hanging around for 10, 15 minutes, if you're there first, I'm going to get a reply to you.
For sure.
And it creates.
That's cool, man. Yeah.
People love that, man. They really do. Like, we'll get messages. People are like, I didn't think you would ever message us back. And I'm like, it only takes me 2 minutes.
Exactly.
And I appreciate that you guys are listening, and I appreciate that you're taking like time out of your day to send us a message. I mean, I don't appreciate it when it's a bad message, but just leave us alone if you're going to send us something nasty.
Send them coordinates.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I do. I always send them geocords. And if they want, that's where I'm at.
That's where you are.
Let's chat. Let's chat. Great. First, if you know what a coordinate
is. Come say
is.
it right here. Yeah,
exactly.
that makes sense. I like that. We should start doing that.
We should start doing that.
Yeah.
Well, man, thank you to my face.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been a freaking blast. We'll have you on whenever you're in town.
Appreciate it.
Seriously.
Thank you guys. I love this. I mean, it's just so great to sit here because I've seen so many and I'm like, God, sit right here one day.
Man, I'm glad that you like it.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
we're gonna put a plaque on that chair that says Donny Dust sat here. This is it, right?
I have to ask, is Donny Dust your stage name, or is that?
That's my birth name.
That's awesome, man. It's even.
I think it was
better.
from birth.
It's even
This
cooler.
happened.
It's even cooler.
I know. Yes, his name's like Jeremy Smith.
Scott Johnson.
Yeah, Scott Johnson.
I was like, yeah, some names just make it even better. So yours is that.
Yeah, you kind of have to do like the hands when you say your name or something. Donny Dust.
Donny Dust stomp.
Yeah.
Just like a bunch of dust kicks up.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Go check out Donny and all the places he is. Thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you're subscribed and stay survived.